All right, I've been wanting to make YouTube videos for a little while now. I don't really know what I'm doing. I have some music playing to hide the graininess of my microphone and the air conditioning fan, all that stuff in the background. So we're just gonna go for it. But I saw something today in the world that I could not unsee, and I had to have some kind of outlet to talk about it. So men, my boys, guys, if you are an unattractive dude, or if you spend a lot of time alone, you have to be reminded that the clock is ticking, and almost in a very unforgivable way. So let's paint the scene, the picture here. You're walking into a coffee shop as a balding, middle-aged man. You have modest shirt on, just the black t-shirt, some jeans. Maybe you're like below average height. You got some wrinkles on your face, and this is a coffee shop in a liberal city, and so it's going to be full of liberal type girls, of younger men, of professional workers on their computers, and you're trying to gauge the room, so you just take a quick stroll real slow. Your body language is kind of giving off some weird vibes, but you haven't been properly socialized your whole life to know that like you're just sort of being a creep, and like just because you're not making eye contact with people exactly doesn't mean they don't know you're there, that you're intruding in on their space. But maybe you read that you just have to, own the room or something, so you do walk around despite how creepily it is, but you just don't have the sense to know that that's the signal that you might be putting out. And eventually you come past a girl who her eyes are sort of wandering from her computer screen, just at a big table by herself. So maybe that means she's inviting you, or because her eyes are wandering that she's looking at you, wanting to approach, when probably in reality she was creeped out. But again, you just don't have that sense, just because of how you're sort of lurking up. And then you make the approach. All right, I'm going to say hi. I'm going to open and talk to you for probably just word vomit at you for a minute or so, and then hopefully that whatever 3-4 topics I just crunched into 1 minute, you'll just answer something. And when you finally answer, you're going to interject right as she starts talking to you, and then just start blathering about more and more garbage. And then after about maybe 2 or 3 minutes of this, you get a tap 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 on your shoulder from one of the guys who works there, who's also half your age, and he's like, come outside, can I talk to you outside? And so as you're doing this little walk of shame outside, you sort of know something's up, but you just don't have the presence to just say no thank you or whatever. But you're going to go with him and sit there and just get reprimanded for the next 45 minutes. So while that's all happening, back inside the coffee shop, you have girls from another table going to check in on this said girl who just had the worst thing ever happen to her. She had an unattractive male twice her age approach her and talk uncomfortably at her for about 3 minutes or something like that. She eventually, not much longer after, packed up her stuff and left. Maybe there was some embarrassment, but while you're getting chewed out by the staff guy, this whole coffee shop is sort of having a revolt against the unforgivable sin that you just committed of being an unattractive male talking to a young girl. Now, whatever the opinions on age gaps or any of that there is, I don't think that's the point that sunk with me. I think the point that was really crazy is maybe a superficial one that we want to say, but how much can we argue with reality that attractive people who know, can read the room. Attraction can mean a lot of things, maybe it's physical, or maybe you just have the right energy or something, right? But the privilege, whatever you want to call it, that there's different results, different consequences for when you are attractive versus unattractive. Maybe it's time that we talked about it, maybe we say it out loud. And it's not something that you exactly brag about in the open, that you're trying to practice social skills, or you like reading psychology or something like that to get better at socializing, because it might come off as less than genuine, inauthentic, and manipulative. But it's something that we're all curious about. We all want to fit in to an extent. We all want to have friends. We want to date, and all these things. So you don't go out pronouncing about it, but unless you're born a natural, these are things that you want to get good at, because there's consequences. Maybe if in this scenario, instead of being a balding, shorter, middle-aged guy, he could be the same age, he could be in the same outfit. But say he had a full head of hair, he had a sharper jaw, something like that. That could have been a very different scenario. Maybe more importantly than just the physicality of it, but he would have had the sense to maybe, one, if he is going to do a risky kind of approach, like just walk up to a girl in the middle of a coffee shop like that who's engrossed in her work, he would have had the sense to not just be so rambly, or to not, if he's not seeing any indicators of interest, that he was just going to walk away eventually. But that's not what this guy had. He had everything that you would just not want to have as an older male. So if you're a man who's unattractive, or if you're a man who spends a lot of time alone, the clock is just ticking on these things. The consequences of actions and inaction, they get a lot more brutal. And in this case, you could get ostracized by an entire place, which, if you don't, I mean, who cares in the grand scheme of things? But it's harsh. You're gonna face some harsh consequences by deciding to get into the game finally, but you've lost just so much time. And as you're sitting here in the present right now, it's hard to fathom what that all looks like what it means to be physically different, emotionally different, and even to really see how you are and what you're thinking in 10 years from now, maybe when your hair is gone. You can't fathom it because you have a full head of hair now. You have that time. So I'm not saying you stop spending time alone. I'm not saying you just go and get a bunch of surgery or anything. I'm not really saying too much here, except just telling this story about just how brutal things can be, especially on just from like a male perspective after a certain point. So I don't know. This was kind of fun. If that's all I got.